In the fog-shrouded hills of the Yorkshire Dales, where ancient moors whisper secrets to the wind, two inseparable souls forged a bond thicker than blood. Emily Hargrove and Lila. Thorn were more than best friends, they were sisters of the soul, navigating the treacherous waters of university life at the crumbling stone halls of Eldridge College. It was 1995, a time when grunge ruled the airwaves and dreams felt invincible. Emily, with her raven hair and fierce green eyes, was the dreamer, sketching gothic tales of lost love in her leather-bound journal. Lila, blonde and luminous, was the charmer, her laughter a siren call that turned heads in every dimly lit pub. But beneath the sisterhood lurked a venomous envy. Lila had always coveted Emily's quiet fire, especially when Emily fell for the brooding artist Theo Blackwood. Their engagement was whispered about in candlelit dorm rooms, a fairy tale etched in stolen kisses under moonlit oaks. Yet on a rain-lashed Halloween night, betrayal struck like a dagger. Emily returned early from a lecture to find Theo's dorm ablaze with forbidden passion, Lila tangled in his sheets, her mocking smile a blade to the heart. She deserved better, Lila had purred later, over cheap wine as if stealing a soulmate was mere sport. But Emily's rage simmered, a cauldron of horror waiting to boil over. The revenge unfolded in the witching hour, on the fog-choked path to Blackthorn Woods, a place locals shunned for its gnarled trees that clawed at the sky like vengeful spirits. Lila, tipsy and teasing, followed Emily's feigned olive branch into the underbrush. "Forgive me, Em. We're forever, right?" The words hung like a noose. Emily's hands trembled as she swung the antique lantern, its iron edge cracking against Lila's temple with a sickening thud. Blood bloomed like black roses on the damp earth. Lila's eyes widened in betrayal, gurgling pleas lost to the howling gale. Panic clawed at Emily. She dragged the body deeper, burying it beneath a cairn of mossy stones, the soil drinking her sin like holy water. No one noticed Lila's absence at first, chalked up to a wild weekend fling. Emily forged notes, mimicked texts, and vanished into the ether herself, reinventing as Victoria Lane, a polished London editor with a husband, 2 children, and a life polished to perfection. 30 years carved Emily, now Victoria, into a woman of steel, her nightmares buried like that shallow grave. But mistakes, like ghosts, refused to stay interred. It began innocently. Her daughter, Sophie, obsessed with ancestry apps, uploaded the family's DNA to unravel hidden roots. A ping in the night, a match. Not a long-lost cousin, but a spectral echo from the moors. Cold case files stirred in dusty Yorkshire archives. Unidentified remains from '95. DNA traces screaming Lila's name. And there, in the genetic web, Victoria's helix tangled with the victim's sisters? No killer in kin. As the first detective's call pierced her flawless facade, Victoria felt the woods calling back. Whispers in the walls, shadows lengthening at dusk. Was it guilt or something darker? Lila's spirit risen from the peat, her pale fingers curling around Victoria's throat in dreams. The noose tightens. One mistake and the horror unravels. 30 years of flawless lies began to rot the moment. Detective Inspector Rachel Corr knocked on Victoria Lane's Chelsea townhouse door. Sophie, Victoria's own daughter, had excitedly shown her the Ancestry app notification. "Mom, look. You've got a 48% DNA match with a Jane Doe murdered in Yorkshire in 1995. Victoria's porcelain teacup slipped, shattering like bones on Italian marble. That single drop of blood on the old friendship bracelet. The one she'd torn from Lila's wrist before burying her had survived decades in the acidic peat of Blackthorn Woods. Forensic scientists called it a miracle. Victoria knew better. It was a curse. Corr's eyes were kind but merciless. "Mrs. Lane, the victim's mitochondrial DNA matches yours and your daughter's. Care to explain?" Victoria's rehearsed tears came too quickly, then stopped just as fast. That night, the dreams worsened. Lila no longer lay still under the stones. She crawled out, skin waterlogged and gray, eyes replaced by writhing black peat. She pressed decayed lips to Victoria's ear and whispered, "Coordinates 540821 Degron N, Flank 9477 W, the exact spot." Sophie, desperate to help the poor murdered girl, started a true crime TikTok series. Thousands of viewers watched her visit the woods with a shovel, live streaming under the title, "Digging for Mom's Secret." Relative. The spade hit something, hard on the third strike. A collective scream rippled through 87,000 live viewers when Sophie lifted the mud-caked skull, blonde hair still matted to bone, the cracked temple perfectly matching the lantern's iron rim. Victoria kept hidden in her attic like a holy relic. Back in London, Victoria stood at the attic window, rain lashing the glass like accusing fingers. Footsteps creaked behind her, slow, wet, deliberate. She turned. Nothing. Only the lantern on the shelf now glowed faintly green, as if lit from within by something that had never stopped burning. The doorbell rang. 2 uniformed officers. Sophie's live stream had ended with her sobbing. "That's my mum's bracelet on the skeleton." Lila's whisper returned, colder than the grave. "Forever, right, Em?" Victoria Lane, once Emily Hargrove, sat in the sterile interview room at Scotland Yard, the walls closing like the cairn of stones she'd piled 30 years ago. Detective Cower slid the evidence bag across the table. The silver friendship bracelet, cleaned of peat but still bearing the tiny engraved words, "Forever, Em and Lee." Victoria's manicured fingers twitched. She had worn its twin until the day she buried it with the body. She never imagined the Moor would give it back. Core played Sophie's live stream on the monitor. The moment the skull surfaced, 1.2 million viewers watched in real time. Comments scrolled like a funeral march. "That's her mum's bracelet. She's been living with the killer." The daughter dug up her own. Aunt, Sophie's final frame, face streaked, with mud and tears, had already become the most shared true crime clip of the decade. Victoria's confession spilled out in fragments, each word tasting of grave dirt. The affair, the lantern, the sickening crack, how she'd returned weeks later to scatter wild garlic over the grave so dogs wouldn't sniff it out, how she'd built an entire, glittering life on that single swing of iron, but she never mentioned the part that truly terrified her now. Every night since the DNA match, the lantern in the attic had moved 1 inch closer to the stairs on its own. At 3:17 a.m., while Victoria was still in custody, the Chelsea townhouse burned. Firefighters found the antique lantern in the ruins, untouched, glass pristine, wick burning with a cold green flame that water couldn't extinguish. Inside the melted metal base, etched by decades of unnatural heat, were 4 new words that hadn't been there before. "My turn now." Sophie, watching the news in a police safe house, received one final notification on the Ancestry app. New match added, 100% Lila Thorne, deceased. Profile picture, a selfie taken seconds ago in the safe house. Bathroom mirror, Sophie standing alone, yet 2 pale arms wrapped around her neck from behind. The lantern sits in evidence lockup tonight. Officers on the night shift swear it rocks gently, though no one touches it. And somewhere in the dark, something that was never truly buried is walking home. "Forever, right, Em?" They moved the lantern to the deepest vault beneath Scotland Yard. Triple locked under 24-hour guard. It didn't matter. At 03:33 a.m., every camera in the corridor turned to static. When the feed returned, the shelf was empty. The lantern was gone. Sophie Lane never made it to witness protection. They found her in the safe house bathroom at dawn, sitting fully clothed in an overflowing bathtub of black water that smelled of the moors. Her phone floated beside her, livestream still running to 4.7 million stunned viewers. The last frame showed Sophie's eyes rolled white, lips moving silently. Audio experts slowed the footage. She was repeating one sentence over and over, in a voice that was not hers. "Forever, right, Em?" Victoria Emily was alone in her cell when the lights died. The temperature plummeted. Frost spiderwebbed across the walls. She smelled wet earth and cheap 1995 perfume. A soft thud echoed behind her. She turned. Lila stood there, exactly as she'd looked the night she died. Blonde hair matted with blood. Temple caved in, but smiling the same cruel smile from Theo's bed. Water poured from her mouth in a steady stream, pooling at Emily's bare feet. "You kept my bracelet," Lila rasped, voice layered with decades of peat and rage. "I kept my promise," Emily screamed as cold fingers closed around her throat tighter than any handcuffs. The cell CCTV captured everything. Emily, clawing at nothing, lifted off the ground, legs kicking. Her neck snapped with the same wet crack the lantern had made 30 years earlier. When the guards burst in, they found her body hanging from the ceiling light. No rope, no chair, just a body suspended by invisible hands. The lantern was discovered at sunrise on the exact spot in Blackthorn Woods where it had all begun. The green flame finally went out. Underneath the cold metal, the final engraving had appeared, where even now, the case was closed, murderer dead by suicide. The woods are silent again. Hikers say if you walk the path at Halloween and listen very carefully, you can still hear two girls laughing, the same laugh. Forever young, forever together. Forever, right?